Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Twinsburg regular council meeting of December 8th, 2020 to order. The time is now 7:30. We're at the Twinsburg Government Center, Council Chambers. Shannon, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. McFerrin?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Present.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Here.
Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
At this time, Mr. Scafidi will lead us in the invocation and the pledge of allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to encourage a meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that affect all of our residents and businesses and our dedicated city employees. Bless those away from us serving to protect our country. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from our last meeting?
Make a motion that the minutes are accepted as submitted.
I'll second.
Shannon, will you call the roll?
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes. Approval of the minutes passes unanimously. Do we have any awards or presentations this evening?
There are none.
Do we have any audience participation this evening?
Yes, we have 4 people that have signed up online. I know some of these people haven't spoke before, so you will have 5 minutes to speak. You'll get a 1-minute warning. And before you start talking, please list your name and address. First, we have Damon Kermack.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
My name is Damon Kimmick. My address is 2644 Bronson's Way. I'd like to thank the mayor and the member of the city council for allowing me to speak today. I understand this is trying times for all of us, and certainly getting the opportunity to speak to city council is an honor. What I'd like to talk today about is the suspension of team sports, club sports, to be fair. I've had a lot of time to think about what I wanted to say today, and I've had the opportunity to speak to many parents. It's clear that, you know, this is an issue that I feel is very important. I know we're living in certain times, and it's not lost on me that the COVID number today was 25,000. I understand the need to be able to take stock and to think about all the things that are going on, but I do believe that the suspension of sports is a mistake for a variety of reasons, including the financial impact on the community, as well as the direct impact on the families involved. We're no longer allowed to have access to the fitness center, as well as the fact that there are now individuals practicing in the facility that do not have supervision. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit more detail about just what I am most familiar with, which is TCAT, but I think this also follows the same with the Twinsburg Rec Basketball League. So in general, I'm not just talking about that. I am a parent of 2 TCAT swimmers. Over the summer, being shut down and everything since March, many of the club sports are, quite frankly, facing very dire financial situation. Currently, we suspended activity within Twinsburg, but at public facilities in the Summit County, this hasn't happened. So Twinsburg swimmers and Twinsburg basketball players can go to any other team and then join that team and leave this team at this time. Now, I recognize not every parent can do that, but certainly this presents a financial problem with the team being fully out of the water. This is an issue not just because of parents, but also because of the coaches. The coaches of these teams will need to make decisions about whether to try to pick up odd jobs or to take full-time positions elsewhere. We as a community may not want to believe that our city could lose club sports, but we will be faced with this if this layoff extends much longer. And I think the level of uncertainty that we have right now puts our decision about whether sports resumes in doubt. I recognize this is not 2008. I don't think any bailouts will be coming to these teams. And I don't think the community will have the support of doing something like that. I would hate to see people. And the next I'd like to talk about families. As I said to the mayor earlier today when I talked to him, really, my children being out of the water isn't impacting me in terms of the practice because they have a fitness center pass and because they have full access because of my privileged position to be able to afford it, to do private lessons with the coaches, so they're really not missing much practice. But this is not the case for every TCAT parent. By my count, I've seen maybe 10 parents out of 105 kids who have had access to the facility during this time. Many of this has to do with financial situations where they cannot afford a facility pass, or they cannot afford to have private lessons, or they do not have the time to supervise their kids when they're in the facilities.
1 minute.
This, although on its face, is not discriminatory because all group activities are at the pool, it does create a disparate impact on low economic individuals in our community, and probably most hardly hits minorities. And this would be with both TCAT and the rec basketball league. My final point is that what we have here now are kids in the facility who are not supervised. I am not capable of preventing sports-related injuries. And in my time in the facility, I have seen kids not obeying protocols over this break, being on deck without masks, hitting each other with noodles and other activities that quite frankly, without the supervision, creates a danger to those using the facilities. Having a coach there
Time.
would alleviate this issue. My solution is that I would hope that the city council and the mayor would see reason to rise above the fears that we currently have and to recognize that we have businesses here that we could approach, that we could find fact-based ways to keep them in the water. If that means that, of the 105 kids, only a certain number could practice on a given day, and they couldn't practice every day a week, I think that will allow a greater access to those in our community who not otherwise get access to the pool. I'm not asking, I think we can all agree that having 100 kids in the pool practicing it's not reasonable at this time. But kicking them all out of the pool is also not reasonable. I would like to end by saying that bad policies made for good reasons are still bad policies. I hope that we can look at all the facts and all the people who are affected and all the potential outcomes and understand that although this may seem like a small issue, that it is in fact very far-reaching and could have implications that lead on past this point. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Next, we have Don Nalinda Wickramasinghe.
Who's the chair?
Don Nalinda Wickramasinghe.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Actually, I to talk about the TCAT swim team. I saw Damon bring a lot of points. I would like to. I have 2 kids also swimming. I'm a full-time member, so I do have access to. But I also think that it's not fair to everyone that what we're doing right now. And I just want to bring a couple of points. I emailed everyone these things because I don't see a reason behind this. Because we were, the fitness center did a really good job until now. They follow all the protocols, they safely. I heard we talked about the Twinsburg strong. We are the only team we had organized some swim meets. Even with all, there was no issue at all. So like right now, so 2 weeks break it was okay, but I don't see a reason to shut it, like continue that thing. So I like to say, bring this CDC recommendation. They say there are no evidence of COVID-19 as spread to humans through the use of recreational water, and also from quoting from the MIT, they saying the pool itself is the lowest space, and even the yesterday's Summit County Board of Health recommendation, they also mentioned skill training and conditioning with proper precautions can be continued. So I kindly request all the council members to please reconsider this decision and let the children to safely do some activity. This one of the safest activities is swimming. Thank you so much for all your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Laura Bartel.
Yes, we can.
Start my video. Hi, my name is Laura Bartel. My address is 11112 Ravenna Road. And I would also like to talk about TCAT, the pause that you guys have placed on that activity. I have 3 kids that are in TCAT, so this affects 3. And I'll approach this slightly different than the other 2 presenters. First off, I just want to remind everyone that 80% of COVID is spread through, it is community spread. In other words, through people going to other people's houses, through weddings, through funerals. It's not done through activities, sports activities like these. Chlorine does not spread COVID. In fact, it neutralizes it. COVID does not like warm, moist air. So spread does not happen in pools very easily. We've had 4,000 swimmers, Lake Erie swimmers, since June, and not one has contracted COVID during a USA event, like practices or whatever. So it's been very safe. So I feel like we need to not shut it down just because we're running hotter with the disease. I know that, for instance, we're following Mrs. Powers and the school guidance, but I've been in contact with the school because 3 of my swimmers are also on the swim team, and I would really like that to continue as well. And while we're following the high school's lead, their lead isn't based on what the Summit County Health Department has suggested. They're not following OSHAA. She didn't get any recommendations from the board members. So it's merely a few people that are making decisions about the high school swim team. So I don't feel like TCAT should follow the lead of the high school, because the high school isn't necessarily, seeking outside advice for this. I also think that shutting down a business, it does create hardships. We've got swim coaches that are losing money, and the health department is even said keeping businesses open and a strong economy is important. Yes, we do need to be careful as we're going through higher incidences of COVID, but even they recognize that closing everything down is not the right way to go. Also, I just wanted to say, even if we could have some sort of compromise, such as, the advanced group who need to be training for high school sports, maybe we could compromise and have smaller groups. Any kind of compromise would be helpful. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And next we have Sue Clark.
Ask her to press star 6.
Press star 6, Sue.
Good evening, Council and Mayor.
Good evening, Sue.
Sue
Good evening.
Clark, 9845 Crestwood Drive. I would like to start by saying congratulations to Mrs. McMauren as Council President. It's nice to see a wrong made right, in my opinion. Now I would like to move into my complaint that has been sitting on Council's desk for 5 months. I have tried very hard to be patient with this Council, but I want to be clear that Mrs. Stauffer's rewriting of Council rules does not negate my complaint. I would like to know how this is being handled. First, Mr. Fury's use of my personal information in a public meeting as a tool of intimidation, discrimination, and bullying is unacceptable. Second, Mr. Fury's talk regarding the cost of obtaining a second legal opinion for the sober home, again, is clearly intimidation and harassment. I would like to know how you're going to handle this situation. He should not be able to speak or treat residents or other council members with disrespect, nor should he be allowed to intimidate, discriminate, bully a resident or another council member. I have reached out numerous times to council and the law director to be involved in meetings and even creating my own complaint form. I can't believe that a city of this size does not have a written procedure. I'm going to give you one more chance to make this right before I move in a different direction. I would like your consideration, please. Thank you.
That's all we have this evening.
Thank you.
If I could just make a couple of comments, yeah. So I want to thank the parents that came on and talked about the TCATS program. We have made a decision at the fitness center in an effort to provide the safest atmosphere that we can provide there for both kids, residents, and it's not an easy decision. Trust me, I've been involved my whole life with youth sports, and it's I'm as passionate about that as anyone, and I want to see these kids back participating. However, the decisions we make at the fitness center in terms of eliminating the group activities or pausing the group activities for the short period of time impacted all of the participants of any youth sport that practices there, as well as any of the adults that partake in any of our group activities. So everything is isolated to just a single individual coming into that facility and working out. And we are looking to potentially reevaluate this, I know, on December 20th. And while we're following the school in terms of keeping a close eye on what the school does, this was also an internal decision we made looking at what's the safest for Twinsburg residents and our members also at the fitness center. And I know I had this discussion earlier regarding the Summit County guidelines. So the guidelines, just to clear, do not recommend that kids continue to practice. What they're allowing under their recommendations for kids to continue practicing. And I'm sure if we contact them and said, we want to take the most conservative approach to this and not have kids practicing, I believe they would support that decision. I know there was conversations regarding other clubs and potential moving to different clubs. I anticipate other swim clubs, especially in the age groups that we're talking about and the numbers we're talking about, to follow suit. I believe I was made aware that Hudson Heat, which has about 300 kids participating, has paused all of their activities starting today. So other, I think, clubs and probably other facilities are helping make these decisions in terms of what group youth sports can continue to practice. And I know it's, again, I know it's difficult, and I understand that being in a chlorinated pool is a safe area for a kid to be in. However, when we congregate 90 kids and try to get them to practice, it is challenging. So I just hope you understand, and this is not something that we won't evaluate on a week-by-week basis. We had 25,000 cases, and I know some of those were catching up from some that were pending, but over the last 2 days, there's 35,000 cases in Ohio. I mean, that's alarming. I mean, I get the same emails as all the parents that spoke this evening. If it's not every day, it's at least every other day, with probably 5 or 6 students and teachers that have contracted the virus in our school district. One thing I did pick up is that the pausing of the high school activities has helped slow down some of the spread within our student body. So I apologize to all the parents. I know this is difficult. I have a collegiate athlete at home. I know it's challenging for all ages of kids. Just please bear with us. We're going to get through this, and we'll continue to monitor it, if not daily, weekly, and try to get these kids back in the water as soon as possible. So thank you for coming and participating tonight, and we will definitely keep you up to date as our future decision if that changes. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have anything? Moving on to council communications and committee reports. We'll start with Mr. Bellin.
Good evening, thank you. I actually attended a dedication of the new St. Cosmas and Damian's Grotto this evening. It was a beautiful ceremony led by the bishop and many members of the congregation. Congratulations to them. The Board of Zoning Appeals is scheduled to meet on December 23rd at 6:30 p.m. here in council chambers. And also, as this is our last council meeting of the year, there's also another BZA meeting scheduled on January 21st, 2021, also at 6:30 p.m. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Walker?
Thank you. I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Mr. Scafidi?
Thank you. Good evening. I have my committees this year are Finance Committee, Capital Improvement, Public Works, and Public Safety. And I believe the next Finance Committee meeting will be on January 26th at 6 p.m. The Capital Improvements, of course, will start to meet in September. They're a short-lived committee that goes over the capital budget that's submitted by the department heads and the administration. And as far as Public Works and Public Safety, those will meet a couple times throughout the year. I believe those meetings will start sometime in April. So we'll be updated on those coming very soon. And other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes, I have a report. So I attended the ARB meeting on December 3rd, 2020. They had 6 items on their agenda. First was, they were all approved as submitted. The first was at 2057 Spring Ridge Drive, Pavilion. At 9079, there was actually approval for a demolition. Buildings at 9079 and 9081 down in the square. 9981 Vale Drive, Infinity Eye Care, there was a sign review. 3072 Wyatt's Way, a new single-family dwelling. 3066 Wyatt Way, 2963 Darlene Court, and 2971 Darlene was approved as noted. That had actually come back. So that's basically the report there. The only thing, there was a certificate filed for the demolition as well. And that's all I have. My other committees did not meet. ARB will meet again on December 17th at 6 p.m. here in council chambers, and then again on January 7th at 6 p.m. That's all I have.
Mr. Fury?
Thank you. The Environmental Commission will meet, the first meeting of 2021 will be February 2nd. I'm working on the comprehensive plan, and that first meeting for that group will be on January 25th. Every 5 years, we do a comprehensive plan to talk about the future of how we would like to lay out the city and some long-term planning. The CIC will meet on January 4th at 5 p.m. We did have an audit from the CIC done by for the state. Came back perfectly clear. The CIC is a separate from the city's finances, but still connected by use of the bed tax, which is required to be 50% of it to be put towards promotional items with the city, which the CIC qualifies. So the audit's fine. It's on the county or the state audit's website as Twinsburg CIC at theauditor.com. I also met in a subcommittee regarding the grants in the last week for the $40,000 COVID grants for local businesses with Mrs. Stauffer and Mr. Scafidi. Those are scored. That information is public. And Mrs. McFerrin will be making a motion to have those recorded, and we expect the notifications and checks to be done by the end of next week. And that's all I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barr?
Yes, good evening. Thank you. My committees for this year are Finance, Public Safety, and Planning Commission. It's kind of good to be back on planning from a 1-year hiatus. With that said, the Planning Commission met last night, and there was one item on the agenda. It's a rezoning request from the Hillview Company. Some may know them as Heritage Development Company. The rezoning request is for permanent parcel number 6409009. It's approximately 13.3 acres off of Ravenna Road. Just from a landmark standpoint, this is sort of across the street from the old Buongiorno's new Taco Tuesday location. Mr. Benjamin was seeking Planning Commission's recommendation to rezone the property from its current I-2 limited industrial to an R5 cluster product. The adjacent land, there's some I-1, I-2 properties. There's R3 across the street. There's some C2 light commercial in the area. And the Planning Commission was pretty favorable about this being rezoned to R5 and being sort of a nice transition and fitting in with the adjacent zoning. The Planning Commission did recommend this 4-1 for council's review tonight, and there is an ordinance on the ballot. It's Ordinance 104-2020, which would, if approved by council, would put this on the ballot in May for the electorate to render a decision on. The next Planning Commission meeting is scheduled for January 4th, 2020 at 7 p.m. here in council chambers. That may or may not change with the COVID status. That may be a virtual meeting that was discussed last night as well. We're going to kind of play that on a weekly basis. Other than that, that's all I have for my committees this evening, and it's good to be back on planning, so thank you.
My committees for 2021, effective December 1st, are Golf Advisory, Finance, Volunteer Firemen. In Finance, as Mr. Scafidi indicated, will meet January 26th. Mayor, do you have anything to report this evening?
I do, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I did also attend the grotto dedication. It was a nice event. It was cold outside, but it was great to see the bishop. I got a chance to meet him prior to that. He's new. He's only a couple months here in the Cleveland Diocese, but I know this project. I met with them earlier in the summer when it first started, and I saw the drawings and different things, and I couldn't get really good visual of it, but now seeing it, it's actually a beautiful dedication to Mother Mary, and I know the church is really excited about it, so it was nice to attend that this evening. I want to mention an event. So usually we have an event called Light the Night. It's a Hanukkah event that we do each year, and unfortunately this year, because of COVID, we have not organized it in one of our city buildings, which is usually where we have it. However, I've been in conversation, and I know Derek has been in conversation with Rabbi Mendy Greenberg, and I believe he's orchestrated at least on a smaller scale event for Thursday evening at 6 p.m. up at Glen Eagles parking lot. So I just wanted to announce that. This is open for anyone to come, and so I encourage any of the residents to show up and show their support. I want to thank our service department and Derek. We didn't do quite the scale of lights that we usually do on City Hall this year, but I think it looks beautiful. We always buy live trees, large live trees, so we can replant them around the city. They're very heavy, they're awkward to work with, and I know service has been out even this week trying to get them straightened up a little bit, but I think the front of City Hall does look great, and I know I want to thank also the township, because I think the square looks great also. It adds a little bit of festive nature to this difficult time we're going through in the holidays. And then I want to mention, we had an email from Councilman Barr regarding just individuals in town that may be in need of food, and we reached out to the Hunger Center and kind of talked a little bit with them about their process to qualify and how you can become a client of our Hunger Center here in town. And so anyone that you come across that's in need, please, either you can reach out to me or Shannon or contact the Hunger Center directly. They are partnered with the Akron Food Bank. However, they do have the ability to qualify people to receive food. So, especially during this time or any time, we don't want to see people going without meals. So if you do run across anyone, I'm always willing to help. And I know pretty much everyone in this room is willing to help. So reach out to your councilman, reach out to me. We'll get them in touch with the Hunger Center. And I know personally we can make sure that people are fed. So we just wanted to mention that because I know there's been some discussion recently and some emails going around. And then lastly, we do have our community engagement initiative going on. I want to thank everyone that's participated in that. Right now we're about 1,000 responses on our survey. We'd like people to continue to take that. We have a lot of residents that could still take that. We've started our focus groups this week, and that's with 10 focus groups, 5 from the wards, and then local organizations that have participated in kind of a question and answer dialogue with the impact group who's helping organize this. So I just want to thank everyone who participated and signed up. We apologize that not everyone that signed up for a focus group was selected. I think we had one ward that had like 33 people sign up for 15 slots. And so I know Mark worked through some software to do a random sequence that ended up helping select who was going to be part of that. And hopefully everyone is encouraged by this initiative. I know we're looking forward to the data that's going to come out of it. We've got some challenging decisions that's going to be made for next year, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results of this and how that can help impact some of the decisions that myself and council need to make. So with that, that's all I have this evening to report.
I understand there's no department head.
There are no department heads tonight.
So moving on to legislation and ordinance 95. Oh, sorry.
I forgot something. Can I cover it?
Yeah.
Thank you. I just would like to address the parents of the swimmers. I saw some letters that were somewhat critical of the way that the city was handling this, and I want to tell you that I think Derek Schroeder's doing a fantastic job of the decisions that he's making to keep that facility up and running and healthy. And he's had a rough year. We've had significant staff reductions there, and social distancing in the way that we've had to reorganize. But I fully back his decisions. In fact, I just received this today from the Summit County Public Health Board, as did the rest of council, and it specifically says that they strongly recommend that school institutions engage in the following. And the number one item that they've said is all youth, collegiate, amateur, and club sport competitions should stop. This includes intramural scrimmages, close contacts, and drills. I thought there were 89 kids in this program, and there's 105. I talked to Mrs. Stauffer before here. When she has a class, and I understand that there's water and chlorine, and it's not as contagious there, but there's still a lot of kids congregated without masks who are coming from throughout the city. Mrs. Stauffer's class has 15 students per class, and she alternates back and forth. I just think that that's a lot of kids, and that taking a break is the right thing to do to align with the county regulations, and as well as it appears that other entities, as the basketball group's taking that, other cities are doing the same thing. It's just taking them a day to come out. So again, I want to thank Derek for his work and appreciate the decisions and the tough spot he's been in over the last year. Thank you. That's all I have. Appreciate you letting me have that time.
Thank you. Okay, now back to ordinance 95, 2020.
The temporary appropriation ordinance for 2021, approved by council from estimates submitted by the mayor, providing for the ordinary expenses and other necessary expenses of the city of Twinsburg, Ohio, during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
At this time, I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 95, 2020 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
This is a temporary budget for the first quarter of 2021, and the reason for the emergency is it needs to be effective January 1st. Is there any further discussion on the emergency? Shannon, would you call the roll?
Ms. McPherron?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 95, 2020 on an emergency. May I have a second?
Second?
Is there any discussion? Shannon, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. McPherron?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Ordinance 95, 2020 passes 7-0. Ordinance 100, 2020.
An ordinance establishing cost of living wage increases for the non-bargaining unit employees commencing January 1st, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 100, 2020 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
I second.
Mrs. Scafidi seconds. The reason for the emergency is that this needs to be effective by January 1st, 2021. Is there any further discussion on the emergency? Hearing none, Shannon, would you please call the roll?
Ms. McPherron?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 100, 2020 as an emergency. May I have a second?
I second.
Mrs. Walker seconds. Is there any discussion?
This is a cost of living increase for our non-bargaining unit employees, so those that are not in a collective bargaining agreement. I believe it's a 2.5% increase.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Shannon, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ordinance 100-2020 passes unanimously. Resolution 101-2020.
A resolution accepting the amount and rate as determined by the Summit County Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them with the county fiscal officer.
I make a motion to adopt Resolution 101-2020. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Is there any discussion?
This allows us to collect property tax, 0.3 mils for the police and fire pensions each, and 1.31 for the park, which is the only property tax we have on at this time.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Shannon, would you please call the roll?
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Resolution 101-2020 passes unanimously. Ordinance 102-2020.
An ordinance amending the current year appropriations for the general revenue account as established in Ordinance 16-2020, the appropriation ordinance for the city of Twinsburg for the year 2020, and declaring an emergency.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 102-2020 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury, second. The reason for the emergency is that this also needs to be effective by January 1st, 2021. Is there any further discussion on the emergency? Hearing none, Shannon, will you please call the roll?
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Ordinance 102-2020 passes.
That was the emergency.
I make a motion now to adopt ordinance 102-2020 as an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second. Yield.
Okay, who's got it?
I'll take it.
Mr. Dillon, second.
Throw my hat in the ring.
Is there any further discussion?
This is a transfer ordinance to accept $10,000 of sales tax for the golf course and $12,000 in DARE grant money, and it puts them into the right slot for the, to close the books at this year.
Okay. Any further discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Ordinance 102-2020 passes unanimously. Ordinance 103-2020.
An ordinance rezoning certain property located at 1816 East Aurora Road, Twinsburg, Ohio, parcel 64-00589 from C2 commercial use to R5 residential use.
This is the first reading and the request for rezoning to residential use is by the current property owner and would be put on the ballot for residents to approve or disapprove. Ordinance 104-2020.
An ordinance rezoning certain property located at Ravenna Road, Twinsburg, Ohio, parcel 64-09009 from I1 industrial use to R5 cluster residential use.
This is the first reading and the request for rezoning to residential use is by the current property owner and would be put on the ballot for residents to approve or disapprove. Ordinance 105-2020.
An ordinance approving a petition for special assessments for special energy improvement projects and a plan for public improvements, approving the necessity of acquiring, constructing, and improving certain public improvements in the city in cooperation with the Akron Summit County Energy Special Improvement District, determining to proceed with such project, and determining to levy special assessments in connection with such project, and declaring an emergency.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 105-2020 on its third and final reading and declare an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. The reason for the emergency is that the county is looking to have this legislation in the same year the project was awarded. Is there any further discussion on the emergency?
This allows us to confirm with the county that $550 that they gave us in a grant was used appropriately for lighting at the community center.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes?
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Now I make a motion on ordinance 105-2020 as an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Stauffer seconds. Is there any discussion?
This particular, it may seem small, $550, but it got us into this, the Akron-Summit County Energy Special Improvement District. So getting us into that district could have some benefits to our businesses in town if they move forward with energy-based projects. So it seems like a lot for $550, but it does bring us in and put us part of this district that could benefit the community as a whole.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes?
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ordinance 105-2020 passes unanimously. Now moving on to unfinished business, new business, and miscellaneous. Mr. Scafidi.
Thank you. The only thing I have is, seeing this is our last meeting of the year, I would just like to say it's been a challenging year, but I think a good year. It's been somewhat productive, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody next year in 2021, and hopefully we get past some of the challenges that we've had this year, and we can move forward and move in an upward direction, like we seem to always say, move in the right direction. Twinsburg has always done that, and we've been strong, and we've been able to move forward, and I hope and pray that we continue to do that in 2021. That being said, I would just like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Happy holidays to everybody. I wish health and happiness to all of you, and look forward to seeing everybody in the new year. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Barr.
I do have just one thing this evening. I touched on it in caucus. Over the past several years, I've become close with a resident by the name of Brad Shotwell. And Mr. Shotwell is, he is just the picture of somebody who really cares about their community, and it's wonderful to see. The mayor, the email that the mayor was discussing earlier was actually brought to my attention by Mr. Shotwell, just showing his concern for his fellow residents. He had heard about some folks that are having a difficult time, reached out to me, we passed it along to the mayor. It's great to see people getting involved in the community and really caring, and I can't thank him enough for that. One of the things that Mr. Shotwell would like to see Twinsburg do is to really try and unite. To get past some of the divisiveness that tends to divide us from time to time. And I think this council, especially recently, has done a good job with our community outreach programs, the focus groups, the surveys, of trying to bridge that divide, perceived, real, or otherwise. We all need to work together for the greater good here. Mr. Shotwell is currently working on a campaign that is totally spearheaded by him to come up with some type of bumper sticker or logo for your car that basically is a Twinsburg strong theme. And council seemed relatively receptive in our caucus meeting. I spoke to some of you after the caucus about that as well. And I'd just like to reiterate to him that you certainly have my support, and I believe, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I believe you have the support of council with that. And if anybody has any questions or comments regarding Mr. Shotwell or how they can possibly help him out, please reach out to me. My contact information is on the city website. But anytime a resident is working so hard, kind of all by himself and reaches out and says, hey, I want to do what's best for our community. I want to try and unite us all in what arguably are some dark times here with everything going on in the world. I think that's just terrific, and I really applaud his efforts for that. Wrapping up, I'd just like to echo Mr. Scaffidi's sentiment. Happy holidays to everybody. Stay healthy, stay safe. I know it's difficult. Let's try and limit our gatherings, and just keep everybody healthy as vaccines get rolled out. Let's get into the new year safely and and with our health. And Happy New Year to everybody. And it's been a privilege working with you all this year. So thank you for that. That's all I have.
Mrs. Walker?
I just want to say I worked with Laura Seifert, I think that's her last name, in Parks and Rec, and she gave me some bags to give out to the seniors. Well, I met this gentleman in my ward, and his name is Mr. John Blessed. Spoke with him a few times, and he passed away. But you just don't know how that conversation, we had a great conversation, a great guy. I can remember some of his last words. I remember the last words that I mentioned to him. Just a great guy. And I think his son, Andy, is on Parks and Rec. So, Andy Bless. Yeah, John Bless, yes. And
You freaked me out there for a second.
yeah, and just keep...
John's younger than me.
Yeah, but just, his dad. I'm sorry, his dad. And just keep the Blessed family in prayer. And also, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Please stay safe, and just listen to our governor and our mayor and our friends, so we could just stay socially distanced from each other and just watch who we are around, because there's a lot of people out there that it's getting it. It's still contagious. It is real. It's something that we can't see. We shouldn't play with it, but this is a serious disease that's going around. So again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all of you. Thank you.
Mr. Fuhrer?
Thank you. I would just like to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, be safe, and enjoy the holidays as best you can. Thank you.
Mr. Bellin?
Thank you. I just wanted to echo the mayor's comments earlier to thank all the residents that are taking part in the focus groups and filling out the surveys. That information that you are providing in those forums are vital to this body as we move forward. We have some really difficult decisions ahead of us, and community input, I think, is vital into that conversation. I want to give a shout out to our service department for the way they handled the snow from a week ago. We got dumped on really, really bad. And, yes, I understand that there were some snow piles at the end of driveways, and I understand that, side streets don't get plowed as soon as main streets, but I think all in all, they did an absolutely outstanding job of digging us out of a pretty substantial snowstorm. So I just wanted to thank them for that. To follow up on an issue from last meeting, Mr. Maestros provided us with a draft of the sign ordinance. That will be on our agenda come January. So I just wanted to, for those that are interested in that, it's coming. So I don't know if everybody here has had an opportunity to read through it yet, but it's not just one singular paragraph. So I'd like to thank Mr. Maestros for his work on that.
19 pages.
Yeah,
It's 26 pages.
Yeah, it's a significant, So thank you very much, Mr. Maestros. I appreciate it.
Thank you for making that a priority.
Yeah.
Sure.
And finally, just a happy, safe, and healthy holiday season to everybody. Thank you.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Well, I do have a couple of things. One earlier resident had mentioned that I was in charge of changing the council rules, and I wanted to clarify that that was actually a number of people on that. We did make some changes to them, and I do think that they will make a difference. So I wanted the residents to know that that was not the sole person on that committee to make some changes to our council rules. And then I wanted to talk to address the parents who came in to talk about the swim team, and I want to let you know that I understand, I understand where you're coming from. I had a swimmer also. I also had a student, senior last year, who missed out on a lot of events. But I do have to say that I support Derek's decision. We are in the purple zone, and I appreciate the mayor saying that they're going to revisit this week after week. But if we can do something now to get this under control, then maybe those kids will be able to have a season pass this. So I do want you to know I do understand your frustration with it all. And then I want to wish everyone a happy holiday. Our city employees, we don't get to see them, our department heads, we usually are here to say happy holidays too. So I wish all of you happy holiday, and we'll see you in January. That's all I have.
Well, I have something, kind of a follow-up, that we as a city, Twinsburg, passed Resolution 43, 2019, back in April 2019, and that was supporting the Sunshine Protection Act being debated at the Ohio State Senate. And I'm just happy to report that it went through the Senate and it went through the House, and as of December 3rd, 2020, there is a resolution by the state of Ohio to urge Congress to enact the Sunshine Protection Act, which would permanently end daylight savings time. So the next step is what happens with Congress, because the United States Congress has to enact it. So, but we've got to move from here to the state of Ohio and Congress next. I also want to wish everyone happy holidays. For those who have done the survey, we greatly appreciate it. There's still time. We look forward to everyone's input. And that's all I have. But I do have a motion. That's just all I had on my agenda. All right, so now we have a motion to accept the recommendations for the awarding of the COVID small business grants as determined by the council subcommittee. Is there a second?
A second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to thank the subcommittee, Mrs. Stauffer, Mr. Fury, and Mr. Scafidi, for taking the time to go through that. I know that wasn't easy, so thank you very much. I certainly will accept your recommendations.
Thank
you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Shannon, would you please call the roll?
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
I would have to recuse myself on that.
Okay. What do I do now?
Passes 6-0.
Oh, passes 6-0. I also have a motion that City Council does not oppose the transfer of a liquor permit from Mr. Yu LLC DBA Buongiorno's Restaurant to Taco Tuesday Mexican Restaurant LLC located at 9149 Ravenna Road, and authorize the clerk to submit the form to the Ohio Division of Liquor Control. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bellin, second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
The motion's been accepted, 7-0. There's a motion I'd like to make to overturn the decision of BZA denying New Adventures Daycare request for a sidewalk variance as set forth in Appeal 04-2020. Is there a second?
I'll second, but I have a question for the library.
Okay. Mr. Fury seconds.
Mr. Maysfield,
Yes.
this is a request to overturn the BZA. So an affirmative vote, we need five affirmatives to overturn the BZA. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So a yes is to overturn, a no is to support the BZA's decision.
Correct. And
Thank
just to clarify for the record, that this went to Planning Commission initially. Planning Commission recommended the construction of the sidewalk with the overall site plan. The applicant appealed it to the BZA, which was his right. The BZA denied him granting that variance, so that's why the motion was read the way it was. So you are correct. You would need a supermajority of council to overturn the BZA's decision.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure we all were following it correctly.
And I know when we discussed this last week, we were talking about some potential costs of the sidewalks. And I know, Shannon, I know that you sent an email. Did we ever get those costs? If we did, I missed
Yes.
them. Okay.
It was between $29,000 and $34,000 were the estimates for the sidewalks to go up and around the corner.
Thank you. I totally missed it. Thank you, Mr. Fury.
The landowner, again, estimated it at over $100,000. That was the challenge.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Shannon, would you please call the roll?
Ms. McFerrin?
No.
Mr. Fury?
No.
Mr. Bellin?
No.
Mr. Barr?
No.
Mr. Scafidi?
No.
Mrs. Walker?
No.
Mrs. Stauffer?
No.
So the motion does not pass 7-0 unanimously. There are no absent members to excuse, and so we are
Wait,
adjourned.
Mayor.
It's a common mistake.
Used to be.
No, I just want to share with council that I enjoy working with all of you, no matter what our challenges are, and 2020 has been extremely difficult. One of the hardest years I've ever had, both professionally and personally. I know if you're like me, you take this job home with you. It impacts your family, it impacts your friends. I love this community, and you can never really get away from it. But I'm very optimistic about what we can accomplish in 2021. So I'm really looking forward to spending some time relaxing over the next few weeks, and then as soon as January comes, get in here and get back to work. But I really do appreciate all that council does, and looking forward to next year. And then on the residents, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and just have a very, very safe and enjoyable New Year. That's all I have.
Mr. Meesto?
Thank you. Just wanted to, as Mr. Bellin brought up, the sign ordinance has been distributed. That is in what I would call still a draft form, but a final draft form. And thank you, Mr. Bellin, for the comments, but I'll give credit to Mr. Finch and the Planning Commission did the heavy lifting on that. We have done our best to clean it up, and I would encourage council to take a little bit of time with that over the next few weeks. I know you have plenty of other things going on, but we're going to start that January 12th with the first reading. So we'll have still 3 readings of that before it's finalized. So you'll still have some time to review it, ask any questions if you have. But that entire document is new, all of it. Make sure you go through it and understand it. And if you have any questions, feel free to bounce them off me or the mayor or Mr. Finch. I know the formatting is not ideal. We're working on that, so don't get too caught up in the formatting, more of the context. And happy holidays to everybody, and be safe. Thank you.
Now can I adjourn the meeting? The meeting is adjourned. Oh, Shannon.
Just happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
Okay, we are adjourned at 8:30.
One more thing. Okay.